I'm Danny, and this is the Scream Princess podcast. Hello there, everybody. I'm Danny, and you are watching or listening to the Scream Princess podcast. And I'm here today with the director and some of the cast of Psycho Sex Dolls. So we've got David Wilde, Stella Paris, and Jamie Jones. So both of the girls have come from like modeling backgrounds and then gone into this film, which I think is probably very much gives the look for the film. But I don't know. We'll start with David. How did this title come about?
Hi, Danny. Thanks very much for the invite. The title came about just what you said there. It came from a title, and that was it. You know, normally you come with a story idea and you come with a story, and then you get the poster and the title later. I've done the old sort of fashioned way of getting the title and the poster and then getting the story back the way, which is a bit scary and risky, but it kind of worked, So it really started from a title and a poster. I'd been in a bar with my friend and I just came out with the title for some reason. He laughed, and that was it. That's how it started,
And that
really.
was it. Because I
Yeah, and
noticed on your IMDb, you've done a lot of short films, and then you've kind of sort of more recently gone into making feature films. So was this your first feature?
No, I done a feature film about 20 years ago, an industry movie that was funded the conventional way with sales agents and producers in London. Went to America, made that comedy movie. It was a really bad experience for many reasons. I was green and, they took control of things and I just didn't
Mm-hmm.
like the process. So I kind of disappeared for about 9 years. Technology got better. I came back and then I started producing my own movies. I could control them. So, I've been making films for a while, but I started a way back and then had a big gap, where I stopped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So have you had to have like a normal job in between, a muggle job?
Oh, what, another job?
Yeah, like do you have a muggle job?
Yeah, I have. Well, I've made corporate videos for years and social media videos
Right.
and stuff. They sort of, day job, and
Mm.
about 1,000 other jobs I had in London as well for cleaning pots, there sorts of stuff, which is good for life experience and
Yeah.
you
Gives you
know,
something to write about, doesn't it? And I feel like when you've done loads of different things, when you're writing characters, you can like get into people's heads and you kind of like know what makes them all tick.
absolutely. And then when you've been a bit, I had my period of being off the rails a little bit myself. So then if you start to get back on, you learn about different aspects of, life. And,
Mm.
I don't think you can write about dark stuff or a bit messed up until you've had a little bit of kind of life experience. It helps. It definitely
Mhm.
helps, you know.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like you've made this film really at the right time because obviously there's just been this like sudden surge in AI. And I just recently watched a Megan Fox film called Subservience. I don't know if you've seen
I've
that
seen
one
it.
yet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That was basically a kind of AI like home help type person that kind of went
yeah,
a little bit
yeah.
crazy. I think yours came about first. I think theirs was like quickly made, but after yours.
I think, look, I think if you write stuff, whether exploitation movies or horror or something, I think if you write about the times that we live in, little themes in there, it resonates. I
Mm,
mean, if you look at the horrors, I mean, this isn't really a horror, it's exploitation movies, a little bit horror at the end. The next one is horror. But if you look at
mm,
it, the best horror movies, they reflect the times that we live in. So I think if you leave that out, and
mm,
the world it's a crazy bloody world and it's constantly advancing with technology. So I think it's important to, kind of address the times that we live in, even though it's a exploitation movie and it's not got heavy themes in it. But I think
mm.
if you can reflect the world a little bit, then it resonates a little bit with people.
Yeah, definitely. And so how was your casting process?
My casting process
Did
is
you
always
know
kind of
did you know the girls beforehand or
no,
was it
not
like
at all.
no?
I think I've seen Stella can answer this. I think my casting process basically is basically it's not always people that have been to acting school or a lot of acting experience. I've got to
Mhm.
first of all I've got to like the people. I've got to kind of know them a little bit and think I'm going to get
Yeah,
on with them. You've worked in movies for years, you know what it's like.
yeah.
Filmmakers bring back people they like to work with because they can rely on them as
Uh-huh.
well. So the casting process is basically not. I spotted Stella a few years ago. Stella was at a film called what was the film called?
It was actually the film that Danny Thompson is in.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, you spotted me in Mosaic.
Oh,
We
Mosaic.
yes. Um, basically, I filmed the scenes during the time of COVID when they were allowing us to mingle again. And yeah, basically, I played the role of a stripper who owned a spaceship. We filmed the scenes in one day, and then that's where you spotted me from.
I think it was because, yeah, it wasn't the dude thing. Oh, here's somebody that's playing a stripper. She'd be good for a film. I mean, if you throw a rock, you'll find somebody that looks like a stripper that could play in a movie. You know what I mean? It was more to do when I saw, I can't remember how it happened, but I saw you a post and I clicked on a link and there was a story about you. And then there was an interview, and then there was a press article, and then there was your music and your animal rights. So you were kind of a lot of facets about you. It was kind of interesting. So that, and I put in a favorite, because I always like to find out about the people. I could hear you talking. So, but then I filed away because Psycho Sex Dolls didn't exist, but I was thinking of doing some sort of horror in the future. So it was a way back then, really.
Yeah, but the first time you saw me, I think you told me it was from the account page of the film directors of Mosaic.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, it was, yeah,
And
absolutely.
and then after that, you continued to follow me and you saw what I post and you saw how
Yeah, I
much
saw you some press
you
articles and your stuff and your music and stuff. Yeah. And Jamie was completely I can't remember what it was completely random. Again, as a filmmaker, you get a certain image in your head about somebody and a certain look, but then okay, the look's there, but is the personality there? The right sort of person that maybe work with. And I saw Jamie on a link. I don't know if it was one of your videos just on Twitter, a little teaser, a bit in Twitter, X platform, and then I just called her up. And I don't know what she thought. Well, Jamie, I mean, when I called you, I says, "The one, I know you got a lot of probably strange characters, but I says I've got a sex doll, idea movie. You know,
Yeah, what
um,
did you think to that? Because you must get loads of weird guys dropping into your DMs, and
Mm,
then you've got one asking you to play a sex doll. So what was your
yes.
initial reaction?
Oh, it was very funny. I remember I remember it vividly actually. I was randomly in Latvia for some reason, and I remember getting this email and I was like, this is either a guy with like a kink and this is like a really long-winded custom request, but he's taking himself very seriously, so maybe there is something to this.
Yeah, but some of those guys do.
Well, this is it, they
yeah,
do. But I mean, I was very excited by it, and gosh, when I was younger, I always wanted to act, and I kind of got sidetracked by the adult industry, which I love. No issue with that. But it was almost like, oh, what about this? So I was really excited by it. And as soon as, to be honest, I agree with David. For me, as somebody that isn't actively working in that industry, it was really important to speak and to see how we got along and how we connected because at the end of the day you're working together on something that it's a bit alternative. There's going to be a degree of teamwork needed to make something like
Mm.
this work, especially when you're working with low budgets. And I liked David a lot, and here I am. Loved the film, and
Yeah, it's very different to modeling in like of modeling, you'll go on a shoot and it's one day, but with a film, you're working, you have to work with these people for maybe weeks on end. So you do have to get on. And I always find if I'm working on something and casting something, I prefer to choose people that I've, worked with before because I know they'll turn up, do the job, be pleasant, and everyone gets along. And it's always a little bit daunting when you are casting people that you have never worked with because I mean, especially the first day, because you're like, well, what if they just cancel? Because I don't know if you've had that happen with anybody, but that's a regular one. Like somebody's all up for it and then they last minute pull out on the day before a film shoot and you've got to recast and it's all very stressful. So
yeah.
I
It's
think,
quite an extraordinary set of circumstances when you're going to bring people together and you've no work with them, and you've got a situation where it could be, I don't like stress, but it's high sort of. You've got a date, you've got deadlines to hit. You've got to shoot by the end of that day, especially on a 6 day thing like this, and it's quite. So you're really taking a big risk in terms of everybody's taking a risk. The people who get involved with you, the performers, So when they turned up, when the ladies turned up, I didn't know. I had to take a chance there as well because I didn't know if they would get on with each other as well, so it was just a big punt for everybody really. But filmmaking is like that's a big risk anyway. You're taking a
Mhm.
risk, and I think if you're not taking a risk, what you really doing? If you know everybody
Yeah.
really well too much, sometimes I think it's good to, you know, but I couldn't. It was one of the best experiences I had, because everybody was so focused and you know how actors sometimes trained actors that are experienced for years are not always focused. Sometimes they just turn up and they want to wing it. They want to just, I don't need to know my lines or, you know, with
Oh
these
yeah, definitely when they get to that point where they think that they're important, they're the most important
oh
thing, and
yeah,
then
yeah, yeah,
everybody else
and
is
that
wrapped around.
And I don't like that. So I like to cast people that I've worked with for years and know. But at the same time, if I'm
Mm,
going to work with new people, I take a risk here and a chance there. Usually in
yeah.
gangster things, I've had gangster things where I've actually had episodes of gangster serials, but I know that if I don't like the actor in that episode, I can shoot them in the end of the first and then they're gone. Do you know what I mean? You know.
Yeah, don't tell them that this is not a recurring contract. Don't tell them it's a recurring role until you piss me off. And
Exactly.
then you'll
So you see how you work with people, and then if it's going to build, and vice versa for them as well. They don't know me. These ladies didn't know me, and especially you're doing stuff like sex scenes and stuff like
Mhm.
that. That was a new territory for me as well.
Yeah, I've had to write somebody out on the day before because they turned up on a film. I'm not naming names, but they turned up on a film and they were a friend of mine. They turned up to filming, but they'd been out as a bank holiday the day before. They'd been pictured in the Daily Mail partying. So I knew they'd gone out and that it was a hangover and they weren't just genuinely sick. But they turned up, they were being sick and they were like, "Can I just come tomorrow?" And I was like, "We've got a crew of 10. I've got all of the other actors. We're paying
Yeah,
all of these people. So no, you can't just come back tomorrow. We can't schedule another day." So I was
yeah.
like, you need to do this one scene. And I managed to write her out of the afternoon scene and just make it a bit of a different scene. But I was like, people don't necessarily realize that you've spent a lot of money on every day of filming,
hmm
even though, so one person doesn't come, that's like everybody still has to
Well,
get paid.
it's like a little cog that knocks if that
Yeah.
day gets messed up, it knocks everything else off a line. So it can jeopardize the whole production, especially in this movie. If we had lost half a day, the whole thing was probably going to collapse.
I
For
remember
many
Yeah,
that
reasons.
especially
actually
when it's low
happening.
budget.
There was a point where with one of the big scenes where we had a lot of extras and stuff, there was
hmm
just so much going on and we were running out of time. And I remember you
Yeah.
literally saying, if we don't get this, the movie's gone. Like we can't finish it. And that
Mm.
kind of pressure, I mean, it was stressful, but we made it work.
And I don't like doing that as well because sometimes people use that as a sort of blackmail and think that's not a good way to work, really, to say that sort of emotional sort of blackmail. Oh, we're not getting the, but it was actually true
It was
be-
true, yeah.
because Jews come from all over the UK. I know Stella was going to America; she was going to live in America. The studio cost me a fortune, so I couldn't
Mhm.
get that back. So actually, if we didn't get that, I kind of just bring everybody back,
Of
you know.
course.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it really was that right down to the wire.
Mm.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
made
it's different
sense.
when you've
Like,
got a Hollywood budget, isn't it? And then you can fly people all over and hire studios.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you have a tight budget, it's,
I'll be honest,
you
I've got
can't.
the Robert Rodriguez attitude though. Even if I had 20 million, I'd still keep it pretty tight because I want to make the film look like 100 million for 20 million. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think hey, our movie was extraordinary tight. We don't want, I wouldn't shoot like that again. But yeah, it made us more creative as well. And it
Mm.
got done. That was the main thing.
We
So
we
that,
were we worked very hard. We were starting at like 9 a.m. or 8:30 a.m. when we
Mhm.
and on
Yeah.
Sundays we finished at 11:30 p.m. and at midnight.
Yeah, I mean, we finished at the studio at 8, but then we went and shot some scenes in your hotel as well
Yes.
with the cast as well. So yeah, I mean, but I think because everybody was living in Edinburgh, we're basically consumed by the film for a few days. Then it's
mm,
different, you're just like, I'm here for this, so let's get it done. And that's
Yeah.
what was
yeah.
great about everybody. Everybody had that sort of spirit of getting it done.
Mhm. Amazing. Well, Stella, I've delved into your career a little bit because obviously I'd known you'd done Mosaic and you were in Video Shop Tales of Terror. And I feel like we've had very similar, I don't, in different orders probably, but I started out modeling as well. And then I did my stint on Babe Cast, which at the time it was like the big sister station of Babe Station. It was in the same building, but upstairs. And it was when they were on Great Portland Street next door to Radio 1. And that was I think they'd only been going for a year. So this is like 20 years ago. And then vegan activism, singing. Like I was like, we've got so many similarities. But tell me about how you went from modeling into the acting.
So, to be fair, I always wanted to be an actress, but I never really followed up on it because, same as Jamie said, I got, distracted by the adult industry with dancing at the clubs and working on Babe Station and, doing a lot of magazine publications, glamour modeling, and all of that. So,
And you make more money than
Yeah.
yeah. And I think also that when I was younger, I didn't have as much confidence as I have today. So I feel like now I'm in that stage where I feel like, yeah, I've got the confidence to do it. And that week that I worked with David Wilde, where we were like non-stop acting, because this was actually my first main lead role. I had played acting roles before, but this was my biggest yet. So I felt like a lot of responsibility and a lot of pressure because I had never done something as huge as this. And but yeah, like the first day I was nervous. But then I don't know, like everything went smoothly. We all got along, and also the other main lead, Simon Ware, he really, really helped me as well with the acting scenes. And before we shot, we spoke about the scenes in detail, and we practiced and rehearsed, and so yeah. And then by the last 2 days, I was like, oh my God, I wish this was a series. I could play Mia like every day. We were all really sad well, we were happy when we finished because we felt satisfied that we had, done it all, and we did our best, and we were really happy about that. But I was very sad that, it was done, it was finished. And I was like, oh my God, now I have to go back to being Stella again. I think I enjoyed the role a little bit too much. I
That's why I had a feeling you'd be perfect for it. I had a vibe.
I love the energy that we all had together as well. I mean, I didn't know anyone before I went on set. I didn't know Jamie. I didn't know Emma. David, I met him. Did we meet once or twice, David?
We met once. I came to your place and we met for a few hours, and then for a quick chat. Yeah, that's when we.
I guess we went to that restaurant. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And I almost missed the train, and you almost had to drive through traffic to get me back. Yeah,
So you did miss this train because I think I got you the first cider and then you
I did
wanted to
miss the
get
train. I took about 5 different trains back to Scotland that night. Yeah, yeah.
The things you do to make a movie.
I think exactly.
So how do you both find the difference between modeling and filming to the girls?
Oh, you go first, Stella.
up to you. You decide. You
Oh
go
God.
first. You go first.
Oh gosh. Okay. I think the main difference, especially when you're on set for several days, is it's more immersive. And
Mm.
yes, I think that's it. I mean, so much of my work within the outer industry, yes, it's Jamie, but she's really me. I basically play myself. She's just a louder, more energetic version of me, basically, which is wonderful. And it's maybe why I love my job so much because I mainly get to be myself. But one thing I always loved when I was younger and in school, and I went to an acting school briefly, I loved the feeling of losing yourself in another character. And I think for me, that's the biggest difference because in my day-to-day work, I really am just being myself. I'm just, packaging it in a form as I turn myself into a product who's whatever I can sell things about that product. It's very different. For me, this felt like it's artistic. It's actually, um, it's just so different. So I feel like I'm going around in circles, but it's
I think the big thing as
Does that make
well.
sense?
I think the big
Yeah.
thing as well, you correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's like there's a big trust element in it as well because when you ladies are making your own content, especially, you control it, you control the lighting, you control the shots, the angles. There's a big trust and risk there taking with a filmmaker. You have got no idea how this is going to be edited or cut. You know, I think that's, how do you feel about that?
Well, when I was new into modeling, I think I got into glamour modeling while the magazines had died off, but there were still quite a few of the big glamour websites. So when you'd be shooting for them, you weren't in control of anything. But
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
I
Yeah,
was,
I'm just thinking of social media content today with OnlyFans and
yeah.
stuff like. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but it's interesting because I remember how careful I was back then when I didn't have control. I
Mm,
was I was hyper aware of how I was being photographed and trying to control as much as possible while
yeah.
still doing the job I was being paid to do. So when it changed to social media, it was wonderful because you are in control of everything. So there is a level of trust, especially working on something that does have nudity, does have sex scenes, and also want to be aware of like how you're being portrayed. Like for me, it was actually really amazing to get to know David, and I loved that he was actually hiring sex workers to play sex workers ultimately, because I feel like so much of the time in certain industries, there's everyone there's always a sex worker because they're interesting, they're exciting to watch, but how often are actual women that work in that industry given a platform to actually represent them? And that was
mm.
super cool. Um,
And
so
it's good because you don't have to, like, it's not like an actor having to go and do that research. Like, if for an actor to research that, are they going to have to go and, like, try out OnlyFans for a little while to see, how it works? Like, how, or they're going to have to speak to people and, like, learn, like, interview people and ask questions. Whereas you've already got that, that's already kind of in your toolkit. Like, how that works and
yeah.
how character would work.
The main research I did was more on AI and how and
Mm.
different movies where kind of AI or robots have been perceived in like a human-like way. That was where I got to research, which was a cool thing. It was a different avenue.
Did all the characters, all of the AI characters, did they all have their like specific archetypes? Like were they, was it like, very different personalities for each robot, or were they all just kind of, very like streamlined AI?
I think the main first one was the Mia character, which was Stella, because she got a chip a processor that which she wasn't supposed to get, which
Right.
evolves into the other movies and explains why, and it goes really AWOL. So that character was very specific, and then she's learning every day. She's there within minutes, so she's watching stuff and she's getting smarter than the filmmaker. So that character was very much specific. The other two characters. They don't have those chips, so they were basically turning up pretty much as sex robots,
Mm.
and she kind of takes them over, which really evolves in the next movie. But they get upgrades in the next movie because you don't want to bring the same characters back without any characteristics, without any evolution in it. So Stella actually, her character upgrades them, but no, not too much that they're going to take over, you know. But then they become specific to themselves. I won't give too much away. Won't Jamie's character become upgraded, whereas second to Stella's, Emma's character becomes kind of fights it a little bit because she's a sex robot, so that's what she wants to do. She just wants to, she wants to fuck. That's what she does. That's what she's programmed to do. But that she uses that skill in the next movie. So the characters evolve. That was the idea. But in the first movie, um, it was really the Stella character, but at the same time, you need people that there's still a charm there, there's still a personality there, there's still something there. You're not just getting people turning up that are just, robots. You still have to, and I think Jamie and Emma came across with that. But my plan after when I seen the first script, I thought if I can get these ladies to come back, if they do want to come back, if they don't want to come back, I've got another plan as well to continue it. But because you've got to keep it kind of open that way. But
Yeah.
um, but I say the first movie as well really wasn't focused on so much in the AI technology and stuff. It was really about a filmmaker being a slave to a financer and the same
Mm.
way that the dolls are the slaves to the filmmaker. So I was bringing a sort of personal film in there where everybody's sort of slaves, and he's the biggest slave is the filmmaker. He's the biggest, which Mia reminds him of. you know. So the first movie is really much about kind of filmmaking, and the second movie really goes into technology and the other characters, the doll characters, it really evolves there, you know, because I think if you're going to make a sequel, it should go somewhere else. You don't just do the same thing again,
Mhm.
you know.
Well, you've already said this one was very much like exploitation, and the next one's going to go a little bit more horror. So
It
you're kind
was
of evolving within your
It
genre
was
as well.
absolutely the first one was purely unapologetic psycho sex dolls. It's called psycho sex dolls. Okay, I didn't do too much of the psycho shit as some people say. They wanted more psycho shit, you know. But you know, if you do what it says in the tin, it sounds like a trashy sort of movie with that sort of title.
Mhm.
So you can't take yourself. I don't think you can. I think I was saying to Jamie at one point. She asked me in the script, "Is it a comedy, David?" Because at first I was trying to sell it, and it was like she spotted it. Yeah, that is a comedy. You're right. At first that was more in the horror genre, but then when you put filmmakers and you put these scenarios in that situation, and these robots gone crazy with this filmmaker, and he's off his head drunk because he's making himself redundant because they're doing all the work. The humor just comes in there. Do you know what I mean? It just naturally comes in. So the first one was more humorous and more. The second one would be, you know, be a lot of humor in there, but it's much more darker, much more a horror sort of erotic thriller as well, you know. And the characters evolve much more.
Welcome back to the Scream Princess podcast. Welcome back to part two of the Scream Princess podcast. And I think as we left part one, we were just about to start talking about sequels. So David has already said that there is going to be a sequel. Have you started writing it? Are you in the script writing process, or have you started filming? Where are we at?
Um, The film, yeah, it's sequels in the sense that it's feature films, but it's like a series. It's you know, I don't like sequels if it's the same story again. So it is each. I know how the whole sort of franchise of films
Mhm.
ends, but I don't know exactly what one it'll end at. But I know it ends. But yeah, I'm almost finished the script, but the script is always I don't write scripts sitting and typing scripts. I write scripts on my phone. I talk them into my phone. And when I've got every scene and every idea over weeks or over months while I'm walking about, then it's finished. But then I've got to type it up. So I type up within a few days, really. So I'm just finished. But what I also do is I don't finish the script until I know I've got all the locations.
Mhm.
I've secured really important locations because then I know what I'm writing for. So I've recently just done that. So I'm just finishing the script. So within the next 2 weeks, it will be finished. Yeah.
How long did the first film take to shoot?
Took 6 days at a studio. We were in there for 6 days, and then I had one day with Simon Weir, who's from Glasgow. We shot some pickups in Glasgow, and then done a little bit of ADR. So, but the main shoot it was 6 days, pretty non-stop. You
That's
know, for
pretty tough for a feature film.
it is, but when it's contained, you know,
Mm.
but probably one of those days, more than half of one of the days was for an action scene at the end,
Mhm.
which is only a few minutes. So that actually took most, so really 5 days, you know. Um, but I couldn't have done it if everybody wasn't so focused and so
Mm.
really on the ball, you know. It was just, as I said before, it was just a collapsed, you know. That's why
Yeah.
it was a total collaboration with everybody, really, you know.
So both you ladies have agreed to the sequel. So how would you like to see your characters evolve? So I
Oh,
know
here we go.
we've already said that you don't know that much about it yet. You've agreed without knowing anything, but what would you
Yeah,
like to see your characters do?
Well, I've read the synopsis of the second one.
yeah.
So basically, Mia has realized what humans can be like, that they're greedy and they're nasty towards each other, and she's decided to take over the world, right?
I'm not going to make the movies now. That's done. You don't need to know
I
anymore.
like
You
that.
know,
It's very girl power.
she's the kind of Walter White Scarface character. You know,
But I mean, I don't know exactly what is going to happen. I really can't wait to read it. I mean,
there's
I'm like
there's
on
a
the
lot.
edge of the seat.
There's a hell of a lot until you get there.
Hmm.
You know.
And Jamie, you play Chloe. So what would you like to see Chloe do?
I'm gonna sound twisted, but I would like, well, I know she gets an upgrade, which I love because I think it's gonna give her more to work with, but I would like to see her be a little crazier. I want to see some truly batshit psycho stuff.
Well, that's good you said that. I had a feeling of that. So that's happening. Look,
Yay!
the good thing is about working with people. When I worked with these ladies in the first film, I thought if it really goes bad and the acting isn't to point what I think, I'm taking the risk on here, they're still dolls, so they can still be quite robotic, but they were better than that. So when I go to work with them, now that I'm writing the script, I know what they can do. I know what they're like to work with. I know what they can do. I know their acting range, and I'm sure can push way beyond that. So it's a different set of circumstances. So when I'm writing, that reflects that. So I'm glad Jamie said that because, yeah, I'm there. I'm there.
Yeah.
Wait, so you saying that you saw potential for extra craziness in us?
Potential
Absolutely,
craziness.
absolutely.
I think crazy is really
It's
fun
a
to play.
contradiction with Jamie. I think in that side where you see you could play softer roles, but no, there's an inner side there. It's an edgy. That's the way I see. A darker edgy.
Hmm.
So, can I ask you a question, David?
Yeah,
Are you going to have to stock up on the fake blood?
yeah. We're going to have proper fake blood in this movie rather than CGI stuff. Absolutely, there'll be a fake blood person just dedicated. So yeah, yeah,
Amazing. That sounds like there's going to be a lot of blood then.
yeah.
So how do you feel then about like CGI versus practical effects?
Look, it depends on the film that you're doing. Hey, I'd done a few blood shots in this because we had no time and no money. But in terms of movies in general, you want to do practical where you can do it, and the best place to do practical is in micro budget horror movies, obviously.
Mm.
But if you're doing CGI, usually in bigger action movies, if for me CGI should or AI should just enhance things, no recreate unless you've got a total fantasy world that you're making,
Mm.
But you want to do practical effects, don't you? Like the old 70s horror movies, you want to keep it practical as much as possible. But even if I had a budget, I'd want to keep it practical.
Yeah, I think the fans appreciate it, but then obviously it's a completely different technical skill that didn't
Yeah,
used to exist that now exists. And it's like, obviously, if you go down the CGI world, it's like you're taking jobs away from the people who can do the practical effects. But at the same time, it's like, well, and this is the same thing with AI, I guess. Like, I mean, if I'm writing something now and I need something quick, or even if I'm, I will use AI and I'll do my own bits, but then I'll kind of, you use what's there, don't you? So I can see that like the
well,
future's just
AI.
different.
Yeah, AI is a tool, and it should be
Yeah,
used as people get scared of things. I don't. I embrace new technology because it's gonna
yeah,
destroy you if you don't. This movie wouldn't exist without AI because this movie, I never had a sizzle trailer. I had an
yeah,
AI poster, and that's really what people latched onto. And then through
yeah,
the movie in AI, some of the slow motion scenes in the movie, we get the camera settings wrong. So there was an AI section in post production that made some of the shots really, really smooth that weren't
yeah.
possible to do smooth. Also, some of the sound was patchy in some of the movie.
Mm.
I done ADR, and the ADR wasn't as good because nobody likes to do ADR.
No.
Um, you never get the same thing. I used AI in some of the sound, and it was amazing. It was like it captures the same performance if you've done ADR with the
Mm.
exact same performance, but much more clarity and the
Yeah.
same performance. So it's a tool that you use tools when you edit film, whether you color
Mm.
it or you do this, that's a tool. But I
Mm.
think people, as soon as they hear AI, they think, oh, it's going to write with scripts, it's going to do this,
Yeah,
well,
it can't.
if you let it make you redundant, I control it. I'll control AI the
Mm.
way that I want to use it because essentially it's about your story and your characters.
Mm.
And if you let AI take that over, then yeah, which is
Yeah, then you
Hollywood
don't get
basically.
your film, you get something else. But I completely
Yeah,
agree with you. It's a tool that should be used. And I can see what
yeah.
artists and people are saying, like, it's kind of doing them out of jobs, but it's not if they start using the tool. And the thing is, it exists now. So you
The
have to
genie's
kind
at the
of
bottle.
you have
Genie's
to
at the
jump
bottle.
on board, really.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know.
But do you think that this film could kind of, well, I may especially the sequel actually, because it sounds like it's going to be a bit more nuts, could be like a warning to the world on the future of what AI could do to us.
Well, I don't want to give it too much away, but I've got a plan for a whole bunch of movies, a whole bunch of them. Whether these ladies are going to be involved, they want to be involved or not, it doesn't. But I've got a plan to do a whole bunch of them, and that will be revealed at the sort of end where I don't see. We're doing a pretty good job of ourselves destroying ourselves without AI. You know,
True.
um, I've got a little twist on it. an AI where I don't know if you saw a movie called War Games from 1984, I think, with Matthew Broderick, which was about computers taking over the world. There's a little element of that in there with
Uh-huh.
this movie, and a little element of The Man Who Felt the Earth, and a little element. So I'm kind of bringing AI in a positive way, but actually it looks all through the series of movies like a really negative way. It looks dark, but actually it'll flip it near the end.
Mm. Were you ladies involved in the costume process, or were you handed costumes, or did you get to really get involved in kind of creating those characters for yourselves?
Well,
But we could,
David, you ordered a lot of the stuff, didn't you? But then we also, y-
yeah,
I brought with me about 3 suitcases.
Wow.
yeah.
And Jamie and Emma brought in their huge suitcases too. So there was like lingerie and costumes everywhere of
It
all
was
kinds.
basically what I could grab for China cheaply as well. Look, there was some specific costumes because there's some films within the films, like the
Mhm.
Clockwork Orange. I was specific there, but then these ladies brought their own stuff as well. I thought, they showed me some of their stuff, and I said that'd be good, that'd be good. But it ended up as just bring everything.
Yeah.
you know.
Well, I think costume can really help you get into a character as well. So, I mean, a lot of the time I'm given like roles and it's like bring your own clothes and it's like, well, I'll just wear leopard print or just wear and it'll be and then I'm just like me, really. But when you do something, when you have a role that's completely different to who you are, I feel like costume really plays a part in kind of getting you there.
Yeah, feeling the kind of vibe, the mood.
Yeah, like it's like what would that person wear? And then you start talking about your character as a person as opposed to, as opposed to you as the actor.
Yeah.
I definitely found the makeup helped with that because obviously we were using a lot of our own clothes and we're used to wearing sexy clothes for work. But the makeup, the doll makeup for me really, I thought made me look quite different to normal.
Right.
So that definitely helped me kind of think, okay, right, I'm Chloe now. You'd look
Yeah.
in the mirror and you'd be like, whoa, she looks a bit weird, wired, these big lashes. I
Yeah.
remember on the first day, actually, the makeup artist kind of put these white marks on us to kind of, I guess, to almost make us look like a Barbie reflecting the light. It was pretty,
Yes.
I liked that.
That was the first scene, wasn't it? When we're dressed up. Yeah, when they opened
Yeah.
us in when they wheeled us in, and then we were dressed up as maids, and we were, yeah, cleaning.
Yeah. So what
So
was
funny.
your favorite scenes that you filmed?
Oh,
Oh my gosh, there are so many. I think the one that I liked the most was was well, there were a few, but when I play human Mia and she comes in and she's bloody furious and she wants to kill Simon, she's so angry at him and he's like laughing at her and like, yeah, yeah, look at the robot. Oh, she looks exactly like me, you're insane. And then, well, I don't know how much I should say. Should I? I don't want to give the story away.
No, hey, say just go for it.
Yeah, it's like, well, I've been through some really toxic relationships in the past, and I kind of used that to my advantage when human Mia came into the scene fighting with Simon, and it came around so naturally, and I mean, it looks real, right?
Mhm.
yeah, I did.
She
Well,
was so curious, and I loved playing that role as well. Um, and then I think we all really enjoyed the part where the martial artist came to show us some moves,
Mm, yeah,
and
we,
that
Yeah,
was a
Captain.
lot of fun.
Yeah. What
yeah.
was yours, Jamie? What was your favorite scene?
I'm gonna just sound crazy again. It was like I'm not a violent person at all, I swear. But it was the crazy stuff. It was
Well,
just being creepy. I remember
you,
the dream sequence, the come play with us, Damien. So fun. I loved it.
I think it
I'm
is
glad
fun
to
to
hear
play
that.
crazy roles. It,
Mate, yeah, maybe it just it's almost an outlet for my inner wild nutter. But
Yeah.
I agree, working with the stunt coordinator was amazing. I remember actually I stabbed whoever I was killing so hard, I dented the prop knife.
Oh wow.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah, you only asked me a few bits of direction in that. And then I said a couple of words, and you were, I've got it, I've got it, I've got it. And then you, you know, which is always the way you want it. You don't want to over-explain things. You want the person to be they can go to that zone and that vibe.
Uh-huh. Did they take a lot of directing, or were they just very easy? Like, did they just kind of fall into their characters very
No,
easily, and it
very,
was
very,
like,
and I'll be honest with you, I don't, and these ladies will tell you, I don't direct much because my background was in acting for years, and I didn't like over direction because
uh,
for me, when somebody tells you too much, they're telling you how to play the character, they're telling you how to do this, they're making you redundant, you know.
mm,
So I just kind of guide and say, you could go here, go do this, and then because you want to see what the actor's going to come up with, you don't want to kill that inspiration. You want to
yeah,
collaborate with them. So for me, it's it's almost like a lack of direction. But if they need to know something, I'm there. But I was shooting the camera as well.
mm,
But what I did, it was quite a conscious decision. I knew Simon Weir, who played the lead. He's a really great guy, and I knew he's great with actors, and he's a really great actor.
mm,
I knew that he would rehearse with them and help them a lot. So
mm,
I don't like to give a lot of direction, and there wasn't a lot of direction so much in this. Stella and Jamie can tell you there whatever. Mate, it's probably seemed as if I wasn't even there, a lot of the times. But if there was something gone wrong, I would have said, no, it's no this way, it should be that way. But I kind of trusted them just to fly with things.
mm,
Keep a
Well,
looseness there.
well, because my role, Robotic Mia, she starts being very clinical, very robotic initially, and then with every scene she becomes more and more sentient and forms her
Yep.
personality. Obviously, I had to ask you, how are we going to tone it up and down with the robot or human level, you know?
mm,
Hmm.
So that, yeah, that was important to know how, if it's more human or more robotic.
mm. Did you
And
shoot pretty much in sequence, or was it all out of sequence? Because that could be quite tough if you're obviously playing a character who evolves like from being robotic to becoming more sentient, and if you're shooting like back and forth, it's like, who am I now? Or did you shoot kind of in sequence
I
because you
think
were
we
shooting it?
shot a lot of Stella and Simon stuff in the last couple of. What we did was we shot with Jamie and Emma because I had them for 4 days.
Mm,
So we shot a lot of their stuff in the opening scenes with them introduction, or the films within the film scenes that they do a lot of
mm,
the crazy stuff. And then I could let them go. And then a lot of the sort of more intimate stuff with Simon and Mia's character. Was more kind of dialogue and more kind of then that was shot in the last couple of days, which kind of is the sequence of the film near the end. But you've got
mm.
things out of context, as you know, that's where you shoot movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was quite a bit of evolution in there, and the shooting a little bit at the end. Well, Stella will tell you that as well.
Yeah, because I shot a film where I played like an alien character, like a body snatcher, and she was like learning from these other humans how to behave like a human. So the more the film went on, the more I was supposed to be, getting it. But obviously
Yeah,
shot it all over like scenes all over the place. So
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
hang on, am I like weird
yeah.
now? Am I normal now? Like what's happening? It's
But you
quite
know
tough.
yourself, that's just a filmmaking
Yeah,
game. It's all over the place. Do you know what I mean? You can be
yeah.
shooting the end scene at the start, and you can
Yeah.
be.
I always find it's the awkward scenes you get given first. So if there's like an awkward scene with you and another actor, it'll be when you haven't met the other actor and you've got this really awkward scene and that's your meeting. And then obviously if you'd had that scene at the end of the film where you've all known each other very well, then it would have been super
Exactly.
simple to film. But I think also
Yeah.
then if it's an awkward scene, it comes out that it's awkward. So it works that
I
way.
mean, the difficult thing in this one was the way it was scheduled as well, because some actors were turning up differently. I had Kewin turn up a different day, etc.
Mhm.
So I had to plunge right into the sex scenes at the start, which were quite, it was new for me, and I didn't really want to do that. I wanted to do some scenes that were more kind of laid back, but because of the scheduling, I
Yeah.
had this actor only for that day. I had to start that way. But sometimes being thrown right into the deep end just to
Yeah.
do things is the best way as well,
But
you
then
know.
I suppose those ones, then you're like, phew, those ones are out the way because they're the kind of tougher bits and they're
Yeah,
a little
but
bit more
and after that,
sensitive.
if you can do that, you can do anything.
Yeah, no, it's true. But then also it's awkward for you because you haven't done that before. So for you, you're a little bit, oh, I'm directing these people and it's something new for you
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well. So you kind of a little bit of like first day nerves times 10. But
Yeah, yeah.
And
But that was probably more nerve-wracking than actually shooting movies where I've shot a bunch of gangsters shooting the hell out of each other in Glasgow streets with machine guns and
yeah,
police and everything. That was less daunting to me than
yeah,
until I got into it. And then it was like these ladies were so easy to work with. It was like, right, okay, let's shoot any other movie, really, you know.
yeah. And what are your kind of favorite genres? Because obviously, girls, you're not necessarily from the horror world, or
Mhm.
do you have like a favorite genre that you'd like to work in?
I like I don't like specifically sticking to one genre. I started off in a comedy movie and then I done a really dark, gritty sort of military movie.
Hmm.
And then I went to Oklahoma and Tulsa, made a horror movie in front of a drive-in, a kind of more thingy movie, and then I come back and I done crime. I like to for me I like genre,
Mm.
whether that's and but as long as the genre can bring in a sort of personal story in there as well. So it's more in genre movies. But I liked the horror aspect of something I did a few years ago because it was more, there was very few lines and it was more atmospheric, but I just never had the budget. But in the next movie, it's more kind of, it is definitely more horror and more darker and more kind of brutal and more, um, but it's not even just the genre. It's like, I keep saying it, if you say, oh, if you want to be a horror director, I don't believe in that because some of the
Mm.
best horror directors, William Friedkin done The Exorcist, he's no horror director.
Hmm.
Ridley Scott done Alien, even though it was a kind of thriller, but it was like a horror. He's no horror director.
He's from
You
here.
know,
He's from where I live.
is he?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what was the other one? Kubrick done The Shining, who's no
Mhm.
horror director. So I think sometimes if you're outside the horror genre, you can see things that are not really been done.
Mm.
Because you don't want to just do the same thing that's always been done.
Yeah.
So it's for me, it's genre movies. Really.
Mm. How about you girls? What kind of roles would you like to see yourself play? Like away from Psycho Set Stars, like if you could like take your pick.
Stella, do you want to go?
Yeah, sure. I think something mystical, something like to do with fantasy,
Hmm.
like maybe like a witch or a fairy or a mermaid,
Mm.
an elf, a pixies. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
I'm not writing that.
I might write that.
I want to write it. Oh no.
How about you, Chloe?
Um, so for me, I do love fantasy. I love a good fantasy. And I also just love stuff that tells real people's stories, romance dramas, I guess. Um, so I think as much as I do love the silliness and the vibrance and the kind of craziness of playing a sex robot, I think something I would find interesting and more challenging would be maybe a more realistic character, like an actual person with
Hmm.
real life issues, that isn't actually I'll probably say that isn't relying on looks or her body because so much of my career has been so dominated by the outer appearance. It would be cool to do something that is actually more around the energetics and the way that the character communicates. I think
Yeah.
that would be very cool.
Yeah, I always say I'd like to do something where like I'm in like a full prosthetic and I'm made really like ugly, like some kind of creature or something, because you'd have to kind of really, do something else than just kind of,
Yeah.
appear
Did
on
you like
screen.
go deep in here? Like, what have you
Yeah.
got to actually give that isn't related to this?
Yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
would be fun. But
Mm.
would you say that this film then is quite kind of female empowerment? Because I think a lot of, I mean, you don't make many films like this anymore. And I remember when David was, I think you had started shooting. I remember messaging you saying, I love the title of this because they don't make many kind of exploitation type films anymore. And I think you've had all these kind of women in the guise of feminism who have kind of managed to get like Grid Girls banned from the racing and Page Three banned from the papers. And it's like, in the form of them saying it's for equality, but I think the equality is like us having the choice. Like women can have the choice to play sexy roles if they want. There's always going to be a call for it. Men are always going to want to watch it. But I would watch a film like this. Do you know what I mean? Like women will watch stuff like this. Like some of my favorite films just for like an afternoon are like the Jenna Jameson zombie movie. I think is fun. And there's like, there are fun films like that. But I think like making films like this can be quite kind of empowering, I guess. What do you think?
I mean,
Me
I think
personally, yeah,
oh,
sorry.
sorry.
Yeah.
All of you.
Sorry, on you go, Jamie.
Oh, I was just saying this film in particular, the male characters draw the short stick.
Mhm.
So the girls definitely come out on top, even if we're fake robot girls.
Well, for me personally, it's like I would sound like an asshole if I says I'm writing a female empowering movie or a series of movies. Then I'd sound right away like an asshole, and that's no where I came from. But the way that I always see it is, I always see females as stronger than males. Males has always got the strong, oh, they're strong physically, but mentally strong. Women in my life that I've noticed, they always bring up the kids. Men always self-destruct. All the men that I've known in my life and uncles, and they've all been drunks and self-destructed. They kind of seem to get through life. They
Mm,
don't seem to, oh, they're strong men. Well, they're no strong men because there were strong men going to work and then they come home and they drink themselves to death. So I said maybe subconsciously that's always been there with me. But when I started this, it was to make a no apologies kind of sexploitation movie that you don't always see.
mm,
But nobody's, hard sex in it because everybody can see that today. So then I'm going to make myself redundant and it's still
yeah.
story based. But as the movie evolves, most of my market on this are men. But as they watch it, and I don't think there's a lot of really smart men, that are kind of, following this and watching it. I think they get it where I'm going with this. The men
Hmm.
are going to look like pretty much fucking assholes, you know, because it reflects the way that the world is. It's not that I'm making this, especially when it goes into the dolls. It's more about sexuality. It's more about technology. It's more about men and women. There's all those elements in there. So naturally, the female characters are pretty much the strongest characters, but that's not a conscious decision for me to be a pretentious asshole and say, I'll make a female empowering series of movies. And people, it's just naturally sort of, that's the way that I see the
Mm,
world. So I think in the next movies, yeah, the characters are. So people always used to say, but why do women not get interest in strong sort of, or empowering roles, whatever? I don't see it so much as that. I see it as much a interest in roles.
mm,
Men have got roles that are like saying Robert De Niro in Taxi Driver. He's no strong character. He's a complete fuck up, but it's just
mm,
an interesting character.
mhm.
Whereas in a lot of movies, the women are playing the housewife. Or if they're in a movie that's say in The Sopranos, they're swinging around a pole and that's all they're doing. You know what I mean? So it's more to do with, yeah, it's just, um, yeah, the females in this whole series of movies will be strong characters, but
Mm.
it's not a decision of being I'm writing in female empowering roles. It's just the way I see the world.
How did
I,
the
th- I think.
actresses feel then? Like, do you girls feel
Mm.
like, even though it wasn't necessarily meant to be that way, did you feel like playing those roles really strong?
I thought it was really empowering, to be honest, because in the storyline at the end, it's the girls who win. So
Um,
we love the last, and so we're laughing the best.
So
for
what
But
have
me,
you all got coming up
sorry.
next?
yeah, sorry, one last little bit
What?
about that, Danny. Yeah, yeah, but I make no apologies that people hear that and go, yeah, I'm still making a movie that's got sexy stuff in it, and
Yeah.
it's like an exploitation movie. But for the whole series, the women are pretty much hardcore characters.
Mm. So what's coming up next for everybody? Obviously, you've got the sequel. Is there, and I've looked on IMDb, there's the sequel and there's another one that's kind of not got a picture yet. So is that like the
Yeah, the
third?
third one potentially would be in the States. But
Mm.
if we get the second one done first, that's the main
Yeah.
focus.
Yeah.
You know, get enough to handle. You know.
Yeah. And what about you girls? Have you got anything else coming up other than the sequel in your careers?
I mean, gosh, for me, no films coming up yet other than this. But in terms of career, I'm leaning more into YouTube right now.
Mm,
I did lose some really big YouTube accounts, unfortunately, so I'm kind of rebuilding from scratch at the moment. But it's
mm,
something that I've been really enjoying, kind of channeling energy into, because it isn't like wholly adult based, so it's kind of actually a
mhm.
nice change. It's a new thing to explore. So
Yeah.
that's it for me. I travel a lot. I do love the work that I do, and but what's super cool about this opportunity and getting to work on the dolls and to meet David is that it has opened doors and. Um, like I'm open to opportunities of this type now. And I think what you do one,
Mhm.
it just helps, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's an example of what you can do. So
Well, especially
that
when
makes
people
me,
have seen you in something and they're like, oh, okay, she was good in that, rather than like a complete,
yeah. And it really took like David's like faith and his, I guess, trusting his gut in choosing us to work with him and us actually delivering, which I really
Mm.
appreciate.
Well, it was a two-way street, so I appreciate that as well. You took trust in me, do you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
Even though you slid into the DMs. I
what was that?
said, even though you slid into the DMs.
Well, you have to make some connection, and
You do.
slowly over time. Because there's so much. These women will probably get so many DMs and bullshit for people, and kind of a
Mhm.
lot of creepy people, and so you've got to kind of slowly, you know what I mean? It's like to show who you are and what you're trying to do. Maybe they look at your stuff, look at your film stuff,
Mm.
and that some guy that just wants to turn them into sex dolls for some weird fantasy or something.
For his own collection.
Yeah, yeah.
And Stella, have you got any more film stuff coming up?
So yeah, same as Jamie said, I've got the dolls coming up. I haven't auditioned for anything else. I was meant to purchase a business in US, but unfortunately that didn't work out. So I'm back here in UK now for a while, and I'm open to new film opportunities. At the moment, I'm training my voice with my vocal teacher, and I'm working on my singing songwriting, and I really want to follow that through as well. And I have a concert coming up in October in Birmingham, with the school that I attend. So that's going to be exciting, performing live. And yeah, I've been thinking of perhaps performing in some little festivals this summer, to gain experience being live on stage.
Mm.
And also, of course, animal rights. It's not a job, it's a passion, and
Mm.
I will never stop doing that. Of course, sometimes I have to have breaks because sometimes it's very taxing on my mental health. You see a lot of videos, and
Mm.
sometimes, yeah, it's just too much. So I like to step back a little bit sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you all so much for coming on. Good luck with the shoot for the second in your series. I'm really looking forward to seeing where this all goes.
Thank you for
Thanks so
having us.
much for Danny for having us on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
You
Thank
too.
you too.
And Jamie and Stella, thanks a lot for coming on as well. Appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you for asking us.